Now, I've just been sent this as evidence in favour of the James Webb Space Telescope by a space fan, a James Webb Space Telescope believer. Obviously, recently this telescope has taken a bit of a battering, you could say. And as a result, this space fan has sent me this, which was the release of the James Webb Space Telescope months and months ago. But considering he sent it as evidence, we're going to entertain it. So let's have a look. Don't mean to state the obvious here. This was sent as so-called evidence, and straight off the back, I've got obviously CGI on my screen here, but portrayed as if this is playing out live, as if this is what is actually happening. Quite cunning here, and naive individuals would believe this tosh. But of course it doesn't require that much discernment to see quite obviously we've got a CGI space telescope on our screen.
Séparation Webb Space Telescope. Go Webb!
Go Webb! Go CGI! So we've got more CGI. Oh dear.
We do have confirmation of observatory separation.
These two, bottom right. Getting very touchy, feely over the CGI. Incredibly emotional. No doubt their friendship goes on after work.
The James Webb Space Telescope amidst applause here in the Mission Control Center, now taking its first steps in pursuit of cosmological discovery.
Sorry.
It was a perfect ride to orbit.
And now we cut to this next shot. So we've gone from the CGI release, to now the space prop scene, which is a familiar scene for any of us who sort of keep an eye on the space industry and any space fans as well. But again, we're going to see the obvious tosh. Little warning here, there is a little bit of flashing here as the camera supposedly flickers on and off, obviously for a good reason, so you can't take a proper look at the shoddy build quality of this $10 billion so-called space telescope. So be aware, there is some flashing.
And all of the separation sequence events are running in good fashion according to the telescope controllers. And there is the view from the upper stage camera on the Ariane 5 looking at the James Webb Space Telescope as it moves gently away from its launch vehicle.
I'm going to pause it there, just come back a smidge rather than us think we're at some 90s rave here with all that flashing going on. Let me just see if I can catch it on that. There. Leave it there, where we get to see some of the build quality there of that tinfoil fetish inspired fucking so-called space telescope that cost $10 billion. So this was sent as evidence, but the first half of it was obviously CGI, but people acting as if it was real. And then we get this terrible space prop with awful build quality. Now what makes it even worse is you've got the globe in the background, which we all know scientifically impossible in the first place. So we're dealing with an obvious fraud because you're presenting the Earth as a ball, which is impossible based on the three fundamentals. You can't have an air pressure system next to a vacuum without solid separation. Large standing bodies of water don't have the ability to display convexity upon its surface. And tower cranes and pendulums don't have the ability to be dead still and plumb whilst doing ludicrous speeds in all different directions. Demonstrable science that can be tested and verified by all, the results of which prove the globe scientifically impossible. So straight off the back, something that can be tested and verified by all, that proves this, what we're being shown here, is fraudulent, because they're presenting the Earth as a ball, which, as I've just stated, scientifically impossible, tested and verified by all. There's not a single person on this earth that can refute that with a scientific demonstration. Words and inconclusive observations just don't cut it, lads. Sorry. I mean, look at the build quality of this Tosh. We've seen this kind of build quality before, haven't we? The only difference is this is now $10 billion. Bear with me. I'm just going to zoom to the end of the video here and show you their top boy. Here he is. And again, take note of the data on the screen, which sells this silly lie.
In the fishbowl, and Raphael Chevrier of Ariane Spas.
This is it. We have witnessed and the confirmation that Ariane 5 have.
We won't go too much into that nerd data fest, but you get the idea. This guy hasn't got a Scooby-Doo clue what's going on here. Just data comes through on the screen. A space prop we see released with the build quality of his kid's art project. We had CGI just at the start played out. Of course, the space prop had something behind it, i.e. a globe Earth that we all know is scientifically impossible anyway. As if the footage wasn't bad enough, the CGI, the space props, the presentation of Earth as a ball kind of gives it away, lads. And then we see the data, the naive nerd that believes the data and jumps up and down when the number comes through on the screen. It's obviously ridiculous. The build quality tells us. The data top boy nerd here shows us. The CGI makes it obvious. The naivety of the people that believe this Tosh kind of gives it away. And if you wanted further proof, the fact the globe is scientifically impossible in the first place, tested and verified by all, should make it rather obvious. So this video evidence that was sent to me was nothing more than CGI, presented as reality, very cunningly I may add, that naive individuals might actually believe that Tosh. Blended with a space prop release, the usual space prop Tosh we've gotten from these characters from years and years. So we had the CGI, cunningly presented as if it was real, clapping, emotional hugs and all sorts going on. Then we got to see the usual Tosh angle of these so-called releases, and of course the terrible, and I mean terrible build quality that we've seen in the past, that resembles ridiculously awful failed art projects. Zooming in on this $10 billion space telescope, and you can see it's just a joke. Like I said, a terrible art project, mockery of the people that believe and defend this Tosh. And yet this video was cited as evidence, proof of the James Webb telescope. Sorry, pal, your logic is all shot to bits. You're starting on faulty ground and then assuming your fantasy world is real based on CGI and space props. You might want to look a little bit deeper inside yourself. I can help you by advising you stand by demonstrable science that can be tested and verified by all. Gives you a solid foundation to discern from. Because what you've sent to me is actually evidence to prove that this space telescope is even more ridiculous than we thought. Of course, the final bit of this fraud is to supply the CGI that gets the naive people fantasizing and believing in this Tosh. But as the TikToker known as Jenny has highlighted here, and I've just taken a snapshot, all they do is provide is CGI that can be done for zero cost. We've seen how fraudulent it is. The globe tells us that, which of course is scientifically impossible. We saw the CGI presented as reality. And then of course we saw the terrible build quality of the space prop with the scientifically impossible globe behind it. And then we look at what is cited as what comes from this space telescope. Again, CGI. And as I've shown here, a TikToker known as Jenny can do just as good, if not better, for zero cost. Yet the American taxpayer spends $10 billion for this James Webb Tosh. In fact, let's see what the latest imagery from this James Webb is. See if they've come up with anything new as a result of the bashing it's taken recently. Bear with me. So I'm over at Google, James Webb images. Thought I'd have a look to see if any new images have come out off the back of the absolute battering this space telescope has received over the last week. And sure enough, we've got a new image here. This space wheel, 21 hours ago. James Webb telescope has come here. Engadget. James Webb, they're even telling you. James Webb Space Telescope depicts Cartwheel Galaxy. The key word being depicts. It's just art for fantasists. That's all this is. You get a rocket go off. Supposedly this space telescope is on. In fact, let me just bring up depict. 2 secs. So they've just told us that James Webb depicts that wheel in space. Depict. Represent by drawing, painting, or other art form. They're telling you. Come on, guys. Wake up. Oh dear. So this so-called video evidence sent to me was actually evidence for the absurdity that is the James Webb Space Telescope. It was supposed to back the telescope's validity, but in fact just highlighted the absurdity of this space telescope. CGI played out as if it was reality. Space props with a build quality of a 4-year-old's art project at a price tag of $10 billion. And then you look at the latest imagery that's so-called come from this space telescope, and they're even telling you it's depictions of fantasy worlds. And we know straight off the bat anyway, the moment they showed this space prop with a globe behind it, we knew it was a fraud because the globe's scientifically impossible. No one on this earth can refute that statement with any kind of scientific demonstration that refutes the 3 fundamentals. It's just a fact. And like I say, they're depictions. They're even telling you, wake up.